in votes behind Lyda Crewson, but there were almost 16% or 17% of people who were undecided. So depending on how things go today, whoever wins the Democratic primary is most likely the next mayor of the city of St. Louis. Rodney Boyd joining us right now. Rod the Bod. Rodney, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, man. Unfortunately, I had to vote absentee because I'm in Jefferson City, but I'm doing well. I'm up here at the state capitol, and we're watching the St. Louis elections from afar.
You feel confident then they've ironed out those problems with the absentee balloting system in the city?
I will tell you, I know they did because I voted absentee yesterday, and it took me twice as long as it's ever taken because they went through all of the formal statutorily required steps, including having me actually fill it out, sign an affidavit, why I couldn't be there, and then put my own ballot in an envelope, which has never been done before.
Yeah.
So I actually commented to somebody, boy, this place has changed pretty quickly, and they all kind of chuckled because they knew what I was getting. But that lawsuit really had a big impact on them.
You know, I saw the last poll I've seen on this city race, I referred to it there off the top, was about a week ago. Showed Lyda Crewson with, I think, 34% of the vote, Lewis Reed with 16% undecided, and then Antonio French and Tashara Jones and everyone else was south of that.
I thought the poll that you talked about has been consistent with the prior poll, with the poll that preceded. But the other consistency that you talked about that I think is intriguing for me, as one who watches these elections, is that there's always been double-digit undecided voters. So you think about this, guys. A week ago, 2 weeks ago, with the race fully underway, a week out, there's still 16% of the registered voters who actually, you only told if you voted in the last election. 16%, 17% still undecided. I'm not so sure what those folks are waiting to learn or to see with the last week, but today is on them, and it will be very interesting to see how this breaks. The last mayoral election, and some fact checker might say I was wrong, but I think there was about 65,000 total votes in the mayoral race, and that was the race between Francis Lay and Lewis Reed. Think about this. Today, there are 12 people on the ballot, okay? If only 60-plus or 70,000 people vote, that kind of plurality, whoever can get to maybe 10, 11,000 votes will win the primary today. And in the context of the city, Mark, whoever wins the Democratic primary is pretty much the next mayor. But just think about the math on it. We've got a city of about 320,000 people. He's probably going to get about 60 or 70,000 votes today. Divvied up amongst 12 people. This, with Lyda's leading, Lewis is in there, but this thing seems to be certainly wild in terms of what could happen with the plurality of candidates and the undecided that a week ago hadn't made a final decision.
Yeah. How big of an issue is race in this, Rodney? I mean, I read a story in the Post referred to the St. Louis American publisher Donald Suggs, who tried to get the 5 African-American candidates together last fall to, I guess, try to convince them to narrow down the field a little bit. But, I mean, they tend to divide up the vote when there's that many people running against Lyda Crewson, in effect, right?
I think race, unfortunately, but the reality is race matters in these kinds of races because of the mathematical denominator. When you have 4 or 5, in this case, elected African-American officials that all have some appeal or they wouldn't have been elected,
right?
They take that block of African-American voters and they divvy them up. And remember that, I mean, not just the African-American voters, but they take their base and they divvy their base up. And some of these folks have a cross appeal, a cross sector. Tashara Jones is considered kind of a progressive. Well, so is Antonio French. I'm sure they appeal to some of the same people. Lyda is considered more of a centrist, modern, traditional Democrat candidate. She has her base that's pretty set. She represents the Central West End. She's well-liked in her ward. So she's pretty set. So you've got these other African-American candidates that are splitting up their base, splitting up a lot of their core base, which includes a lot of African-American voters. And I think advantage in that context has to go to Lyda Crewson.
Yeah, I really, I had Lewis Reed in here earlier talking to him about this. Considering the fact that he ran against Francis Slay last time and lost, but was still the number 2 person in that race. I kind of figured he was a shoo-in this time, and now with as many candidates as there are in the field, I think it's just really hurt his chances.
I think it has. I think he will. I think the reason he has polled so well and consistently been in the top 2 or 3 is because he's a known commodity. He ran last time. A lot of people that were supportive of him last time seem to be gravitating towards him. But a lot of people last time didn't have the other choices in the race to reflect on. And so I think he's kept a pretty good base, which is why he's polled so well. But I just got to tell you, in the city that's 52% African American, when you have 5, 6 or 7, we got about 6 African American candidates, or 7, but 5 of them are currently elected. That actually creates a pluralistic turnout vote problem for all 5 of them.
Right. No, very, very much so. And, I've tried to go down and read the different issues. You mentioned a couple of them are more progressive or less progressive, but even that said, I don't get the impression. I get the impression that no matter who wins, you're not going to see a dramatic departure from the way Francis Slay's been running things.
Well, some of that is a function of how the city government is structured. So you're right on that point, because some of them are going to have to fit into the mold that the city set up, where you've got the big automatic board and alderman controls the board, and you've got the estimate E&A board. A lot of that won't change. I think there could be. Mayor Slay was, for whatever people thought about him, he was actually pretty much of a centrist guy. And so the only thing that people are interested in is whether or not a progressive candidate would win. And what I mean by that is Mayor Slay was real big on economic development and trying to do things, and he was a guy who supports the soccer stadium and other things. And some of the more progressive candidates, they don't drink from that cooler. They don't want that kind of stuff. They don't want to see it. So if you got a progressive mayor, that person might say, well, no, we shouldn't be investing money in soccer stadiums or other things of that nature. We should be investing in more progressive ideas. That's a different approach than we've seen for 16 years.
Right.
It takes some time for people to get used to that. But, here's the good news. If there's any good news, we'll know by 10 o'clock tonight.
That's a good point. We'll probably know who most likely the next mayor is. I think I heard Jason Church say earlier that a Republican hasn't been elected in the city. So did you say since 1949? Mm-hmm. Is that what you told me? So it's been since 1949. That's a given. Well, that's a long time.
I don't think any of us on this call were around.
No. That's a long time for one party to be in control somewhere. Listen.
Absolutely.
Rodney Boyd, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, you take care. I appreciate that. Rodney Boyd calling in there from Jeff City today. He said he had to vote absentee because he had to be down there working. But I appreciate getting his input on that. And we're going to get to a couple more issues here before the bottom of the hour.